So these two kids are playing a game of cops and robbers. And the one who's a cop says, "Hey, freeze!" And the one who's a robber says, "No, never!" And the one who's a cop says, "Are you resisting arrest?" And the robber says, "Yes, I am, because it's not nap time." Resisting arrest? You people are no fun. It's story time! This is a short story called Toyed With. Jurayj was the oldest of all his siblings, and as such, usually took on a fatherly role toward his little brother and sister. One Saturday, after Jurayj left his little sister's room to get his coloring book that she wanted to use, Jurayj's mom came home and told him that if he helped to wash the van, she'd take him to the toy store the next day and let him pick out anything that cost $20. He eagerly helped to wash the entire van, scrubbing and thinking about the things he could get as his mom went inside, smiling, going to talk to Jurayj's dad. After that, he asked them if he could go onto the computer, which they quickly, unattentively allowed, and Jurayj looked at the things he could get for $20. There were so many possibilities. He browsed through all the types of trains he could get, and the glow-in-the-dark yo-yo sets, the cars, the action figures, not the cheap ones he made himself out of Legos, and the TSX Robot Commander. Yes, the TSX Robot Commander. That was it. The TSX Robot Commander. He glanced down and, to his excitement, read the most wonderful numbers ever written. 1999. The next morning, he woke up with excitement, with only one thought on his mind. Robot! Robot! In his morning prayers, he couldn't move the thought out of his head. He stayed up after the early worship and went on the computer, this time without asking permission, just reading the descriptions of the TSX Robot Commander, watching the YouTube videos of its lights, its step-by-step walking feature, its flip and fold arms and legs. After a few hours, his mom finally woke up and made breakfast for him and his siblings. "So, Ummi, we're going to the toy store today, right?" Jurayj let out his apparent excitement. His mom sluggishly dishing out waffles and orange juice to their plates, and his siblings' sippy cups, just looked drolly at her son. "Maybe, dear. Maybe." His eyes widened. Now his excitement turned to near fear. "But, Ummi, you promised that I could get something for $20 at the toy store if I helped to wash the car, and I washed the whole car!" She slowly looked at Jurayj with a slither of remembrance. "Oh, yes, dear, we'll go today." Her still glum tone didn't affect Jurayj's excitement. "Yay, Ummi!" A couple hours later, after breakfast, and after his little brother and sister were changed, and their beds were made, and the toys they took out in the middle of the night that made both of their rooms a big mess were all packed away neatly, and Abi and Ummi had a loud adult talk in their room, Jurayj's mom finally left the room, slamming the door behind her, and finally answered Jurayj's wishes. "Kids, come on, we're going to run some errands," she yelled, more than a hint of anger in her voice. The kids all packed up in the van, and they drove off. Jurayj's mom was talking to herself, trying to figure things out. She knew she'd have to stop at the bank, then at the grocery store, and she was thinking about the Goodwill store afterward. But of course the toy store was the closest store to their house, and as they were about to pass it, Jurayj shouted, "Ummi, the toy store! The toy store!" She glanced back and remembered, and made a quick U-turn at the next light. "We can only spend a few minutes, kids. Ummi has a lot to get done today. And remember, the most I'm spending here is $20. They all walked in, and Jurayj immediately ran to get the TSX Robot Commander. It was on display near the front of the store. Ummi, this is the one. This is what I want." He tugged at her. She was trying to hold both of his siblings' hands, who both had already had their hands full, his brother with a Batman action figure, and his sister hugging a pink teddy bear. She turned to him, and looked at the price and immediately shook her head. "Sweetie, this is too much. And they already picked out toys. Try to find something smaller." His eyes widened and began to well up with moisture. "But Ummi, you said I could get something for $20. She only shook her head. "Sweetie, we can only spend $20 here, and they already have toys. Find something for $10. "But Ummi!" "Jurayj, do you want something here or not?" Tears began to swell up in his eyes as he looked at his mother, then looked down at the TSX Robot Commander, looked over to his own little siblings with envy, then looked up at the most serious face that only a mother could give, and sunk his head, turned around, and walked back to the display. Next to the TSX Robot Commander was a smaller robot action figure made of plastic. A plastic robot, he thought to himself. He took it off the shelf and walked over to his mom and handed it up to her. "Thank you, Jurayj. Come on, let's go." They checked out, and he watched his little sister squeezing the stuffing out of her new teddy, and his brother, inaccurately, throwing Batman into the sky in the minivan. He looked down at his measly plastic robot friend. Then, in the coldest and most emotionless, robotic voice he could muster, he had his friend announce, "I am Umi, clean my car." And that was toyed with. That was a short story I wrote as part of a creative writing program I did online, where the prompt was to write a character who wants something but can't have it. Let me know what you think of it. Write a comment below saying good, saying bad. My name is Jawad, and I used to have a fear of hurdles, but I got over it.